You wake up the same way you always do. Coffee, notification buzz, the familiar nod of doubt. You measure progress by outcomes, by the scoreboard that someone else keeps. Then one small question lands in your chest. What if success is not a finish line? What if success is a direction? You sit with that idea. It makes the room quieter. It pulls the lens back. You realize the scoreboard was never the only game. Your thinking shaped the rules. So you begin to watch your thoughts, not judge them, just notice. You catch the script you repeat to yourself, the line that starts with, "I can't." You ask, what if you changed the line? Not with fake positivity, but with a different truth. That you are learning, that you can try again, that progress hides in small steps. You breathe. A tiny door opens. You step through. You are no longer waiting for permission to start. You are beginning to write your own rules. The shift feels quiet, but quiet is often powerful. It rearranges the room. It clears the path forward. You notice the possibilities that were always there. You begin to choose differently. And choice is the first fold of the map. You start paying attention to the small decisions, not the headline wins, but the daily habits that stack. You notice what you do before breakfast, the way you open email, how you respond to setbacks. You treat your time like currency, not in a rigid way, but with intention. You swap scrolling for 30 focused minutes. You replace busy work with one meaningful task. You trim obligations that pull you sideways. It feels almost surgical because success is often built in unseen increments. Tiny wins compound. They're the compound interest of your life. You begin to design systems, routines that remove decision fatigue. You automate good behavior so you don't rely on willpower alone. You set up a morning ritual, a simple anchor that centers you. You set boundaries for your energy. You learn to say no to what dilutes your focus. No becomes a kind of power, a way to protect the space where you create. You see that mastery requires repetition, and repetition needs structure. That lesson is steady and kind. It gives you momentum, even on the slow days. You trust the process more than the outcome, and the process starts to trust you back. Failure stops being evidence of your limits. It becomes feedback. You begin to collect data instead of scars. A project fails. You map what worked and what didn't. You extract lessons like minerals from rock. You fail forward. You stop telling the dramatic story of permanent defeat. Instead, you narrate a series of experiments. You celebrate the learning. Your brain learns that risk is not a threat, but a teacher. You learn to detach your ego from outcomes. The difference is subtle and seismic. You take action because you are curious, not desperate to prove something to yourself. You build a relationship with uncertainty. You show up consistently even without guarantees. That steadiness changes your identity. You become someone who keeps going, who can face the unknown with method and courage. That identity is magnetic. It attracts opportunities you never imagined because people trust reliability, not flash. You become the quiet lever under heavy doors, slow, unstoppable pressure, and doors begin to open. The wins you get feel earned because each one is a result of persistent practice. You examine your environment, the people you talk to, the feeds you consume, the clutter you keep. Your surroundings whisper rules to you. They tell you what is normal. So you curate them. You choose friends who stretch you, not friends who shrink you with their complacency. You find mentors who have walked paths you admire. You declutter your schedule. You design a workspace that invites flow. You reduce friction for your best work. You plant cues that trigger productive habits. A notebook by your laptop, a go bag ready for morning walks. Little signals that steer your behavior. Your environment stops working against you, it begins to work for you, and your energy levels follow. When you control the small inputs, you change the outputs. You also protect your attention. Notification rules, focused blocks, deliberate rest. You honor recovery as part of growth. Because growth that burns you out is false progress. You learn to pace yourself, and the pace is sustainable. You start to move like a tide, predictable, powerful, unhurried. This steadiness creates more room for creative risk and for real, lasting success. You change the stories you tell about yourself. The narrative that used to begin with limitation now begins with potential. You speak to yourself like you would to someone you care about. Not harsh, not flattering. You become your own coach. You replace "I'm not ready" with "I will prepare." You swap "I'm not enough" with "I am practicing." Language matters. Words carve grooves in the mind. You rehearse the kind of identity you want. You act like the person you aim to be, not as a fake, but as a rehearsal. Little choices become identity proofs. You show up on time, you finish what you start, you admit mistakes and fix them. Over months, those traits solidify into traits. You become trustworthy to yourself, and that trust is critical, because most people fail themselves long before the world does. You stop chasing external validation. You build an internal metric, a quiet standard of integrity and progress. That standard becomes non-negotiable. It guides decisions when the path is foggy, and it keeps you aligned with your deeper aims. Success stops feeling like a scoreboard. It becomes a practice of becoming. Now look back. Not to linger, but to see the constellation you made. Every small choice a star, every habit a bridge. The shift began when you softened your thinking, when you stopped measuring by other people's rules, when you built systems that supported you, when you learned to fail forward, when you curated your environment, when you rewired your self-talk, when you played the long game. This is not a fairy tale, it's a map, a practical set of moves you can repeat. You remember you are human. You will still have doubts, you will still have days that feel thin, but you have a rhythm now, a practice that returns you to center. You hold the small, steady faith that effort matters, that identity trumps inspiration, that seasons change and you are adaptable. The camera pulls back. You are still in the frame, but now you see the horizon. You are not chasing a single outcome. You are learning to build a life that chooses you back. So take the next breath. Make the next small decision. Do the thing your future self will thank you for. You already started. The rest is practice, and practice turns possibility into reality. If this video really hits you, like and subscribe for more videos.